2019 journey is gradually grinding to a halt. Nigeria, through leaps and bounds, defied the odds to close the year on a comfortable footing. This special edition of the program seeks to highlight some major issues that shaped the economy, which also featured in our outings. Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital, and I am Benny Adams, your guide. The Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, has offered a 30-day window to enable taxpayers obtain Tax Clearance Certificate, TCC. The Executive Chairman, Mohammed Nami, in a notice to taxpayers, warned that FIRS will not fail to invoke the provisions of the law, including enforcement and imposition of the lien should it be apparent. He said the service has taken steps to ease the process of obtaining TCC and has put in place machinery to issue 2020 TCC for all eligible taxpayers from 2nd January to 31st January 2020. The issuance of TCC to ease the burden of taxpayers is in line with the provisions of Section 101, subsection 1 of the CETA LFN 2004 and in conformity with Self-Assessment Regulation 2011. In the wake of the decision of 8 French-speaking West African countries to adopt the ECO sub-regional currency, Ghana has urged other member nations to speed up the process of implementing the decisions of the authorities of ECOWAS, saying it will do whatever possible to join a new West African currency called the ECO, which will replace the France-backed CFA. The decisions, according to the Ghanaian government, include adopting a flexing exchange rate regime, instituting the framework for the ECOWAS Central Bank, and ensuring that ECOWAS member states achieve the single currency objective. President Nana Akufo-Addo, in a statement, says Ghana is determined to join the member states of UEMOA soon in the use of the ECO, believing that it will help remove trade and monetary barriers. Ghana's entry into the currency union would make it the bloc's largest economy, narrowly ahead of neighbor Côte d'Ivoire. Time now to take a peek at prevailing exchange rates, which, by the way, have remained stable for some time. This is the last episode of the program for the year, and indeed, a lot of waters have passed under the bridge. In this show, Nigeria is ending the year 2019 better than 2018. Today, we shall be reviewing scenarios that brought the Nigerian economy this far, as well as the personalities. So, the year kicked off with an increase on the list of banned items for foreign exchange supply by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The bank subsequently defended its policies and held rates for the most of policy rates meetings.
The Central Bank of Nigeria will get even more aggressive to see to it that food and any or all food items that can be produced in Nigeria and consumed in Nigeria that are currently being imported into Nigeria, that we would go through our records And as once we convince ourselves that these products can be produced in Nigeria, we'll place them on the FX restriction list. And let's ask ourselves the question, what really does it take to produce milk? Get a cow and give the cow plenty of water to drink and let the cow eat a lot of grass, and the cow positioned in a place without roaming around, that cow gets fat and you can take milk out of it. The reason some say our cows are not producing much milk is because our cows roam around, they don't have water to drink. Under the pastoralist arrangement, you find that during rainy season they are somewhere. When the rainy season recedes and the dry or hot season comes, they begin to move from where they are. And then as they move, just like they are cows and they are not human beings, they consume whatever they find on their way. Integrate backwards and begin a process of development and producing your milk in Nigeria. There are obviously two schemes. Either the West African milk or the milk importers acquire land and begin to graze their own cows and then fatten them and take the milk. And then, of course, they can also be complemented by the pastoralists. The MPC reiterated the need for increased efficiency in public expenditure and the building of fiscal buffers. On the impact of the recent closure of the Nigerian land borders on domestic food prices, committee noted that any upward price movement arising from the closure was reactionary and therefore temporary. Moreover, significant investment has been made over the last 3 years to sustainably increase domestic food supply.
Order 007, bridging the financial gap, remains a critical concern for the government of Nigeria if it must meet its basic obligations, address the critical human capital development issues with an impending population explosion in sight.
Scheme, companies that are willing and able to spend their own funds on constructing roads to their factories or farms will recover their construction costs by paying reduced taxes over a period of time. We shall ensure complete transparency in these setups. I call on other local and international investors, as well as state governments, to embrace this roads infrastructure development scheme. I personally invite you to submit viable proposal for more road projects, such that in time, the scope of this initiative will cover all 36 states.
Ease of doing business. Nigeria recorded some improvements in the year under review, and of course, attention was paid to the diversification efforts of the economy, from agriculture to mining, and the whole gamut of the micro, small, and medium enterprises results streamed in. Also, China and the U.S., great trade partners with Nigeria, engaged in a trade war that rippled the global economy.
The MSME sector in Nigeria economy is a major driver of growth because it is one sector that has continued to create employment opportunities for the people, and it has continued to feed into the big factories. And it is again creating opportunity for poverty management, moving the poor people out of poverty with dignity. So it is one sector that has continuously grown, and it has continued to employ more people. As it were now, the MSME can grow to a particular limit, given the challenge of business environment, given the deployment of appropriate technology. And given this situation, they need a push to be able to do better than they are doing. And these have started already. We have the MSME Development Clinic that has been established across the country. We have the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency. We have the Nigeria Incentive Risk-Based Sharing System in Agriculture. And we have the NISA Microfinance Bank that is going to deploy a whole lot of funding into the agricultural and production sector.
You see, China did not come to join WTO until 2001 November. Nigeria became a member right for the first day, January 1st, 1995. What was China looking at? China, as you remember, operates autarky, a closed-door economy, for quite a long time. And then they have domestic kind of stability in terms of production. And therefore, they are watching to make sure that joining WTO will not destabilize them. Also, is the fact that China relationship with United States of America has been a very long one in terms of all these kind of problems. And what is it? Is it United States has ally like Taiwan, like South Korea, but North Korea will not allow to go the American way. And China saw that the intrusion of America into South Korea as well as Taiwan and trying to actually penetrate North Korea is not good. These are internal affairs of these countries. Okay. So China wanted to maintain a standalone policy. And at the time when China decided to become a member of the WTO, America wanted to scrutinize China to the last. And that is it. So what we are seeing today is it has a background for quite some years back. And that is why. But again, you know that this kind of trade war under globalization is going to affect everybody.
Nigeria signed the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, closed her borders to neighboring countries, and nurtured ties with development partners and nations that sought to invest in Nigeria's investment space, especially in a critical infrastructure.
Couldn't be prouder as a Nigerian, so I just came to tell Mr. President that I'm so delighted with that.
Last year, Mr. President Buhari delayed the signing at Kigali so that he can, in deference to his democratic ideals, consult with the organized private sector, consult with manufacturers, processors, and all those who will be affected by the agreement.
It is our sincere belief that prices of commodities may come down and access to some of the commodities that we are lacking in the region, in Nigeria in particular, could be obtained, and some of the bureaucratic bottlenecks with respect to customs and others will also be reduced.
There was this consultation that went through. I mean, the president, withheld signing it earlier at Kigali, the last the AU meeting, and then he waited to consult further with the organized private sector. More of the players preferred Nigeria to sign. And as an expert, I also think there's this adage in my place: so a soldier won't, because of gunshots, not go to war. You must be out there, join the Committee of Nations, do what others are doing, because nobody's waiting for anybody. So really, it's a good thing that we have done, and the good thing is that the president didn't just take a decision without consulting the private sector, the manufacturers, those who are players in the economy, before going ahead to sign.
Okay, now coming from the backdrop of Africa, telling Africans to trade with Africa, what's new there?
Because, I mean, if you look at other countries, you look at other blocks, economic blocks, like in Asia, trade between Asia and Asia is about 67%. Trade between South America, which is about over 40%. It's only in Africa that is about 17%, which is quite low. So we're talking about an economic block of or trade volume of over 3.4 trillion US dollars, just lying dormant. So it's something that you must take advantage of.
If the projects are rejected in the international market, it's because they're not fulfilling the requirement on this market. So what you have to do in your country is to establish first a quality infrastructure in your country for standardization, accreditation, metrology, and conformity assessment, also quality promotion. So it's not enough. When you establish this quality infrastructure, you need to make them recognized at international level. You need to have an accreditation body. We can accredit your conformity assessment body to make all documents you provide to the international level. For example, testing results, certificate of conformity. So if I accredit it, now the documents are recognized at international level and your product can be accepted in the other markets.
Forbes, Nigerians were named for the good and bad. the next industrial revolution is said to be technology-driven. Invictus Obi and a host of others brought negative publicity to the country, but Akomolafe Heinrich and Silas Adekunle are names not to be forgotten soon.
There are 7 on the list, so 6 came to South Africa, so we met one-on-one, and I was so amazed that a lot of Nigerians, young Nigerians, are doing incredible things. Like Chinedu is disrupting the transportation system using Okada. Nola is into real estate, and there's even a girl that bakes cake. So these people are doing a lot of incredible things. So 27 of us, it was really very, very nice to have a conversation one-on-one, and it's not just for us, but it gives the young ones hope also. Okay. And even the other African countries, I had a lot of conversation with the guy from Kenya that is into fintech, and some other guys into agriculture from South Africa, and we became families, and interaction, inter-business, and so on and so forth.
And really it's about the integrity and availability of this platform that we call cyberspace. And of course, all parties that use cyberspace, whether it is those of us as individuals or corporate entities or indeed nation states, have some levels of responsibility. And what the Global Commission has done for the last 3 years, I may say, has basically tried to think through some of the principles and articulate a few principles, and also articulate a series of norms. And basically these are expected standards of behavior.
Now, what are these norms and principles you're talking about?
Well, for example, in terms of the principles, we have, for example, the principle of responsibility. We are all individually and collectively responsible for basically cyberspace, much as we are all collectively responsible for our environment. We are also advocating a principle of restraint. And it, again, goes back to the adage our mothers used to tell us of look before you leap. Think before you take action. And also within that context, another principle is that of the need for us to be able to really act. It's not just a question of sitting on the sidelines anymore. Each and every one of us has a responsibility. And then I think an underlying principle on all of these things is actually respect for human rights. Okay. That's extremely important.
President Muhammadu Buhari constituted a Presidential Advisory Committee on the Economy and signed the budget in record time, officially reverting the January-December budget calendar. And just when Nigerians thought the year was over, the central bank issues some guidelines that would shape the banking space in 2020. Let's take highlights of this very important event.
Scheme, companies that are willing and able to spend their own funds on constructing roads to their factories or farms will recover their construction costs by paying reduced taxes over a period of time. We shall ensure complete transparency in these setups. I call on other local and international investors, as well as state governments, to embrace this roads infrastructure development scheme. I personally invite you to submit viable proposal for more road projects, such that in time the scope of this initiative will cover all 36 states. Through this scheme, companies that are willing and able to spend their own funds on constructing roads to their factories or farms will recover their construction costs by paying reduced taxes over a period of time. We shall ensure complete transparency in these setups. I call on other local and international investors, as well as state governments, to embrace this roads infrastructure development scheme. I personally invite you to submit viable proposal for more road projects, such that in time the scope of this initiative will cover all 36 states.
It's a very good initiative, which I would say is even long overdue, because it's an initiative that directed at channeling the source of financing infrastructure to a different approach, you know, the part of, we have a very huge infrastructure deficit in Nigeria. And part of the reason we have this deficit is because of the financing gap, which has been limited. Over time, we have relied on traditional sources of financing, mainly through government budgets, and some have maybe through quasi-agencies like the multilateral institutions, African Development Bank, World Bank, and maybe the bilateral like China. But that is not huge. That is very small. The deficit is very huge. So if you look at the Nigerian infrastructure investment plan, which was prepared by the government about 2 years, 2015, it identifies that you need about $850 billion over the period 2014 to 2043 to be able to cover this deficit.
Was the fact that the president himself stated from the beginning that he's also determined to see that we work together in ensuring a situation where we have a budget cycle that will begin from January and to end from December. And everybody bought into that view. The entire Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the members of the House of Representatives, everyone came on board on this very, very important viewpoint. And we worked with the executive. The executive came, worked very hard to put together his proposal that was submitted to the president. They were having sleepless night, workers, the civil servants being in the office, sleeping in the office to make sure that the proposal was brought in time.
This is what our community have advocated for. Most investors, they're already planning for what next year will be like. If you are a country that is not serious, you start your own fiscal year by July or September, if you like. And most of the investment around the world would have reduced. World Bank, Moody, among other international organizations, and IMF have warned Nigeria in previous times. That is important. Nigeria also work alongside with what the rest of the world is doing, particularly countries that want to be classified as developed country or truly emerging economies. So for me, the fact that we now have January to December, which is one of the major issues we've advocated for, that the National Assembly and the Executive should work together and pull all of this together. I'm happy it's coming. But if the Senate president leaves, just as he said, what is the guarantee that it will continue? That now means Senate and House of Representatives, we now need to pass a law that mandates executives to submit MTF by July or September, as the case may be. Then budget submission will happen by September, and by December, as it's being done now, Senate will pass it, the whole National Assembly will pass it. The executive has perhaps 15 days or 21 working days to assent to it. So that 1st of January, when Mr. President is reading his goodwill message, budget summary will be inclusive in it.
We have been able to release 1.212 trillion. We will not be making any more releases during this December 2019. We are not planning to do any more releases. However, there are some that are in various stages of processing that will be completed. The 2020 budget takes effect from 1st of January 2020. Achieving fiscal sustainability and macro fiscal objectives of the federal government will require bold, decisive, as well as very urgent action. Federal government is determined to act in this way as may be required.
Deduce the concerns that we seek to address with the regulations that we're looking at. And also, don't forget that we also want to be proactive. There are some of these also that we anticipate and will meet it with regulations that we issue. Some of the complaints that do come in is about, essentially, it's about charges or excess interest, excess charges, some unapproved charges here and there. Charges are approved, like we're going to be seeing in the new guide to bank charges. You have a list, a gamut of charges, we have addressed there, And again, because we do not want to stifle business, innovation, and entrepreneurship in Nigeria, Central Bank is there to also enhance banks' health. Okay. So what we're doing is to help the banks to help themselves, by Central Bank helping the customers. So that everybody is a win-win situation for everybody. When more people come, your business expand, then your cost of fund, your cost of doing business will also, scale up.
How did stocks perform in the holiday shortened week? Bossy Abel is our guide.
The bearish trend extended last week as the Nigerian Stock Exchange NSE All-Share Index declined by 0.41% to close at 26,416.48, while market capitalization ended at 12.7 trillion naira. Investors traded only 735.7 million shares worth 7.1 billion naira in 7,138 deals last week, as the market was opened only for 3 days due to the fact that Wednesday and Thursday were observed as public holidays to celebrate Christmas. As a result, the volume and value traded were 46% and 54% lower than the 1.3 billion shares valued at 15.5 billion naira that exchanged hands in 14,528 deals the previous week.
That is a wrap of this edition of Business Express, the last for 2019. I'd like to inform you that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channels. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is at NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. Business Express returns on Wednesday next year. I am Benny Adams saying, keep thinking and doing business.